Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever really thought about how the device you're watching this on right now actually got into your hands? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and trace the invisible threads that weave our modern world together.
We're diving deep into this incredible, invisible network that connects, say, a designer in California with a factory in Malaysia and a store shelf in Europe. This is the story of the global value chain.
All right, so to really wrap our heads around this, let's start with a product that's probably within arm's reach of you right now. Your phone. Its story, well, it reveals this fascinating paradox that's right at the very heart of how things get made today. Yeah, we call it an Apple product, right? Designed in sunny Cupertino. But here's the thing. Apple doesn't actually manufacture the components, and they don't assemble the final device either. No, that story is way more complicated and, you guessed it, incredibly global. Just let that sink in for a second. Apple's biggest rival in the smartphone wars, Samsung, is also one of its most essential suppliers. They provide about a quarter of the parts that go into an iPhone. This is the wild, interconnected reality of modern business where your fiercest competitors are also your most important partners. So that begs the question, right? How can a company possibly cooperate so closely with its biggest competitor? To really get that, we need to zoom out and look at the fundamental blueprint that companies use to build their competitive edge in the first place. And the answer lies in this concept, introduced way back in 1985 by a guy named Michael Porter. It's basically a strategic map that lets a company look at every single step of its process and ask, where can we add more value? Where can we cut costs? Also, they can ultimately come out on top. So, Porter's big idea was to split a company's world into two halves. You've got the primary activities along the bottom. That's the hands-on stuff. It starts with getting your materials in the door, then actually making the product, shipping it out, marketing it, and supporting it after the sale. Then, up top, you have the support activities. Think HR, IT, all the crucial background stuff that makes the primary work possible. And the whole point of mapping this out, to make that margin on the far right as big as humanly possible. And this is a brilliant way to see it in action. Forget iPhones for a second. Just think about a donut shop. It takes super cheap stuff, flour, sugar, oil, and adds value at every single stage. Getting organic flour is part of logistics. Their secret recipe? That's operations. That giant inflatable donut on the roof? Pure marketing. Each little step helps turn basic ingredients into a delicious treat that people are happy to pay more for.
Okay, so what happens when you take that basic donut shop logic and you stretch it not just across town, but across the entire planet? Well, that's when the value chain goes truly global. And this is it, the global value chain. It's a strategic choice. Companies decide to do different parts of their business in different countries. All part of this worldwide hunt for lower costs, maybe some specialized talent, or just to get closer to their customers.
To really see this in action, let's look at this German solar company, Qcells. Their whole strategy was built on the idea that people would pay more for that premium made-in-Germany engineering. The problem? It turns out solar cells aren't that complicated. And their competitors over in Asia were making stuff that was just as good but for 30% less. That made-in-Germany sticker just wasn't cutting it anymore. So what do? They had to go global. They opened up their own factory in Malaysia, which instantly slashed their manufacturing costs. They even outsourced some of the panel production to another company entirely. And this did two things. It saved them a ton of money, and it put them right on the doorstep of their biggest market in Asia, which cut way down on shipping. But, and this is a huge but, going global is never simple. To break into the huge Chinese market, they had to partner with a local company. That deal, though, forced them to buy a key component, these silicon wafers, directly from their new partner. The catch? The partner was charging them more than the going market rate, so it actually hurt their profits for a while. It just goes to show you these global webs are full of tricky trade-offs. So you've got parts being made in one country, assembled in another, and sold in a third. How does this incredibly complex global dance actually happen without the whole thing just falling apart? Well, at its very core, the process looks pretty simple. It's basically 5 steps. The stuff is prepared, it gets cleared by customs to leave, it's transported, it gets cleared by customs to enter, and then finally, the buyer gets it. Sounds easy, right? But believe me, every single one of those steps is an obstacle course of paperwork, regulations, and potential delays.
And this is where things get really wild. Every country has its own little quirks. In Brazil, for example, apparently nothing moves on big soccer game days. The whole country just stops. And get this, if your official documents aren't signed in blue ink, your entire shipment could get stuck in port. Just imagine having to manage all of those little rules all over the world.
Okay, so before we wrap up, there's one last really crucial distinction we need to make. People throw these terms around all the time, but a value chain and a supply chain are absolutely not the same thing.
Here's the simplest way to think about it. The value chain is a company's internal playbook. It's their secret strategy for how they are going to win. The supply chain, on the other hand, is the entire team of external players, all the suppliers, manufacturers, shippers, everyone that's needed to actually execute that playbook. So the value chain is the architect's grand design. The supply chain is the entire construction crew that actually builds the thing.
So, the next time you pick up your phone, just remember, you're holding the result of this incredibly delicate, globe-spanning dance between bitter rivals and close partners. It's a complex system that's always changing, which of course leaves us with one final, big question. As technology shifts and politics evolve, what's going to be the very next step in this global dance?